If you are thinking about putting your house on the market, before you put it on the market, I think a lot of things need to happen. I think you need to go and think of yourself as a buyer and put yourself in their shoes. That person who's putting their house on the market is going to go somewhere else. So think of how you would want to walk into that property that you're about to purchase.
You're listening to the Your House, Your Equity podcast, Home Sellers Edition, where we help homeowners like you to sell your house and save your equity. Welcome to the Your House, Your Equity podcast, where we give homeowners all of their options to help them sell their house and save money with or without a real estate agent.
My name is Vin.
And my name is Elle. We all know that selling a house can be a roller coaster of a process, which is why we make all this free content to help you through it. But wouldn't it be nice to come home each day to a beautifully staged and organized home, knowing that many of your belongings are already packed for the move? And imagine how easy it would be to get ready for those last-minute showings. Believe it or not, this is much easier to achieve than you think. And to help guide us through it, we have a special guest with us today, Tara Yarbrough, professional organizer and stager and owner of Be Organized in Northwest Arkansas. Making your home an organized oasis is Tara's specialty, and she's going to share her pro tips to help you get your home organized and keep it that way until moving day. So Tara, thank you for being with us today. Are you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
All right. So let's say a homeowner decides to put their house on the market and they want to get their house ready. Where would you recommend they start?
Well, we always call it where you start pre-packing. So if you're going to move, if you're planning on moving anyway, just start packing. I think that the task and that it seems so daunting to think I've got to pack my entire house. I like to say, start in the closets. Pack up the things that you're not using right now. If you're, listing your house in the summer, pack up your winter stuff because you're going to be gone once that house is, on the market. Things are moving so quickly right now. So I like the pre-packing, clean out your closets, clean out your drawers. Think of the things that you're not going to use for the next 3 months and just go ahead and start packing that. People look through drawers, closets, they look through everything because they're imagining this being their home. And so it's just an easy way to start. The things that you're not going to use, just start pre-packing.
That's a great tip too, because then especially once you're ready to move, that's so much less you have to do later. It takes a lot of the stress out of it.
Yes.
And especially during the process of moving, I know it's stressful. So having your house ready even before you put it on the market, it's nice to come home to that like clean, super organized environment. That just, I don't know, that makes me feel like, I can relax. There's not stuff all over the place. And it definitely makes me feel better. So I can imagine someone who's stressed and trying to, to get ready to move, just to have that, just everything clean and that great feeling of just everything where it needs to be. I would love it. It would take my stress down.
That is definitely our goal with Be Organized. So just that feeling all the time, not just when you're moving, but, to have that where everything's in its place. And, we only keep what we love, which, many times we have more things than we actually love. So, but yes, that feeling, you want to have that feeling when you come home.
Yeah. And I think I saw on your website, it said it's liberating to simplify your hive.
Yes.
Something like that. And I wrote that down. I was like, you're right. Because when something is neat and organized, it's like you do have a different feeling. You do feel liberated, as opposed to being so messy and chaotic in your head. And also in your sight.
It does bring peace. That's probably my favorite part about organizing is that when I can see the homeowner at the end of it, when we have organized a space for them, that sigh of relief and their shoulders drop, just that is probably my favorite. It's my favorite part of organizing. So
yeah, exactly. And it's interesting, like I didn't realize how big of a need this was. I always knew that I would need help with organizing and different things like that. I just didn't realize how many people needed the organization. And I'm starting to see this is popping up more and more and more. So it feels good because like it makes me think, and hopefully others listening to this, that look, we all need help with organizing. It's not something that is just, oh, wow, I have a little bit of clutter or I have too much stuff. Maybe it's just the age that we're living in now, or the way that we're being marketed to in this country or world, that we all have a need for this.
Right. And you think about, the houses used to be smaller, even though more people lived in the house. And now the houses are bigger and less people are living in the house. So we have room now to store a bunch of things in our house. My daughter's moving to Colorado, and one of the things I'm trying to go through things with her to see what she loves, what she wants to keep. And a lot of the things that we find, and just in our own family, is, the family photos, the family, and I said, do you want to take this? And she said, no, just keep this. So now all of a sudden I'm a space giver, where I'm keeping stuff for her because she doesn't want to deal with it. Yeah. And now I'm trying to find a space for that. So all of those things that happen when you're organizing, and even like if you're putting your house on the market, right? So you're thinking, I have all of this stuff that maybe my kids are in college and now I've got to store that. Or my mom passed away, and so now I'm storing her stuff. So it seems overwhelming when you're putting your house on the market and you have all of these things. So it's going through that. It's trying to organize that stuff, because you don't want to necessarily have a storage space too. That's so right. Sometimes it forces you, when you are putting your house on the market, to have to go through and address some of those things. What do I do with these things? Is it time for me to let some of these things go? And those are hard conversations. And I would say for us, we come with our three main things. We are confidential, we're compassionate, and we are non-judgmental. So some of those conversations are pretty hard when we're trying to help organize somebody that maybe has lost a loved one, or is going through a divorce, or is downsizing, or something like that. Those are hard conversations. But when you're trying to sell your house, people want to be able to come and see the space. So, it's just, we hold hands, we give hugs, we are just trying to be compassionate through that whole process. But it is part of what has to be done in order to sell a property. So we love what we do, and we hear lots of stories, and it is, at the end of the day, we become friends with our clients because you're in their most intimate of situation. So it's a lovely piece of it, but it is hard at times.
Yeah. What would you recommend for somebody who, even if they are trying to do this on their own and trying to organize on their own, what would you recommend? Like, how can they get themselves through kind of those difficult points where they have things that they're either, attached to, or things that are, someone else's maybe that they don't want to get rid of, or how can they really navigate that?
Well, we ask 3 questions. Do you love this? Mm-hmm. Do you use it? And is it valuable? So if I don't love it, then why am I housing it? Do I use it? If I'm not using, then why am I housing it? And if it has value, then you definitely can look at ways to, put it on eBay, put it on Marketplace, try to find some of that, because that may be tying them down and, saying, I spent so much money on this, but I don't use it and I don't love it. And we just want to be surrounded by the things that we love. So, and the things that make us feel good. And if those answers are not yes, then we try to get somebody to get rid of that. So even, I know that Marie Kondo says, does it bring you joy? Well, things can bring you joy, different things. Yes. We just say, do you love it? Do you use it? And is it valuable? And, find a way for one of those to deal with it that way.
That is great advice. I wrote that down, and that can help me as well, and realize, okay, you know what? I'm not really using that. There was a time I thought I might have needed that, but I don't anymore. And now I can sell it or do whatever. Yeah.
Let it go.
It's value. I like that.
And I do have one question, just because this is kind of I would think would be the hardest part for some people. So let's say they're starting the process of organizing and cleaning things out, and they get stuck. They get to that point where they're like, well, I'm really, they're in their own mind and they're connected to the item, or they're connected to something. Is it really the item they're connected to, or how can they really just say, oh, I'm really connected to the memory of this, and I still have that memory even if this item goes? Or like, how do you separate that, and how do you help coach them through that?
Well, sometimes it's maybe sometimes letting them tell the story. we work with some elderly clients as well. And so part of that is them being able to tell the story, which they're amazing stories. And there are times where we can say, it's amazing that you have that story. Is this something that you cherish? And if we let this piece go, is the memory still there? Or is this something that you want to keep? And maybe it's because we say, like if you can't love everything, right? Then nothing is special. And so those things, sometimes if it's too hard, we can just put that to the side at that moment and we come back to that. We've had to do that oftentimes. Like that is too hard for the memory keeper who just wants to tell the story. So sometimes we have to come back to that. And there are times where we just look to see how much of this project have we done? Where are we in this process? Do we need to just let this go? Because not go as in we get rid of it, but we need to just go ahead and pack that because that part is too difficult at the time. And if that's the case, then because we want this to be a good process for everybody involved. We don't want the client to get upset and feel pressured. We never want anyone to feel pressured because we go back to, we are non-judgmental, we're compassionate, and we're confidential. So we want to make sure that we're always remembering those things. So if that is hard for them, let's pack that. And there may be another time that we can deal with that.
That's a great way to do it, especially because like we said, selling a house is stressful alone, just without the whole need for packing and decluttering and organizing and then worrying about a move and where you're going to move next. There's just so much that happens and so much that's going on all at the same time. So just having that moment of, okay, is this just too much for me right now to figure it out? Let me just put it aside.
Right.
and having that moment of, okay, I know I'll get to that, but now's just not the time. And keeping that stress level down is that's key to like keeping your mind sane through the whole process is having that ability to separate, okay, this needs to happen now. And this one, it doesn't need to happen now.
Right. And if, like you said, if you're doing this on your own, those are the questions like, okay, I know that pictures are going to take too much time for me. So I'm going to maybe not do that. And I'm going to tackle those smaller things where I know I can make decisions. Like, do I want this ladle or that ladle? Okay, well, that was easy. So now we're going to just, try to do the easier things that if you're doing this by yourself, I think it's important and to recognize, okay, this is hard for me. So I don't want to do it right now. And that's okay. At some point, you would get to that point where you're saying, what do I do? Do I just pack this for right now? Now, if you're doing that for every item in your house, then you're going to have a very full garage. But if you are doing this, a little bit on your own, we just want to make sure that you're trying to purge and asking yourself, do I love this? Do I use this? If those things are not yeses, then that needs to just go. So, but it is valuable. Those kind of memory things are valuable to you. But if, again, you can't love everything because then nothing's special. So
that's so true. And one thing that I can't remember who told me this. It might've been my mom that said, if you're not sure whether or not you want to part with something, just pack it away out of sight somewhere for a while. And then, just leave it there. Don't look at it. Don't think about it. Just pretend it doesn't exist. And I do this with clothes. And do I really wear this? No, but I don't want to get rid of it. So let me just put it somewhere for a couple months. And then when I find it again, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I just survived all this time that it's been there. I had no idea it was even still here. I totally forgot about it. That gives me that piece of, you know what? I can get rid of this now.
Right. Yes. My daughter has been traveling for 6 months and she has 2 suitcases. And so then when we went to her storage unit and she had to go through, she's like, I didn't miss any of this, not any of this. And now she's purged even more. And so it's just, if you, like your mom said, if you have not missed it, obviously you didn't love it. You didn't use it and it wasn't, valuable to you. So we literally have too much stuff in our houses are, that's where all this clutter is coming from. And it's, so easy to purchase things. I mean, you want something, get on Amazon Marketplace, you can get it right away. So that makes it a little bit easier, obtaining things. And so versus, getting in your car, driving somewhere I think that, could be your first filter. Like, is this worth me getting in my car and going and searching for this in a store? Might slow you down a little bit more for your purchasing
Yeah.
than if you can just have it delivered to your house quickly. So yes, we have too much stuff and it's time to purge those closets and get ready.
Yeah.
That's right.
I agree. What about, like, for me, just like, and I know, like I said, a lot of times I think I'm the only one who has these problems, but from reading your stuff on your website, I'm like, oh, maybe there's other people. But what about, like, people have businesses or just paper, like paperwork and different things like stacks of paper or sticky notes or folders? I'm big with just, I'll tell you, folders have helped me because otherwise I'd have more stacks of paper, but then I got stacks of folders. So I don't know. What do you recommend for stuff like that?
A lot of, that's hard because we are, paper just can consume us. I use Turbo Scan. I scan stuff if it's something that I think I might need. And then at the end of the year, I try to just go through that and get rid of those things. I mean, I know some people worry about it's in the cloud, it's all of that. I know paperwork on a desk can be overwhelming. I have clients who they don't even know where to begin because there's so much paperwork. And I have a client that I just love dearly that I meet with, once a month. And we start, when you have your paper that's all over your desk, it blocks your mind. So your mind is already like, I can't focus on this. So I tell her, we're going to just put it all in a stack and we're going to only address the item that's on top. We're not going to worry about anything that's underneath there. And we say, what do I need? Do I need to file this? Do I need an action item behind it? Do I need to put this in my calendar? She would have things that maybe needed to go into a calendar, but would keep it just as a reminder. And when we talk through that process of you've already put it in your calendar, now you can let that piece of paper go. And that is freeing. But until you have systems, and not all systems work for everybody. So, that I can suggest something to you. And I always say, let's try this and see what's working in that, because my system may be very different from you. But if you like folders, I love folders because that helps me be able to categorize it. And I categorize, I used to just put it alphabetical and now I do it by insurance and household and cars. And so I have different main categories. And so the things that I need, but typically if you look at the things that come into your house in the mail, how much of that do you really ever use? If you're auto paying something, okay, well, you have record of that anyway, or do anything, to drive more paper out of your house. You can do automatic pay, draft, or just, where they email you, and not have to print everything. So lots of different options, but yes, paperwork is consuming. We do have clients that are wanting us to digitize photos because that takes up so much space. So for me, I think you can do a lot of things that are, in the cloud. And well, what happens when the cloud breaks one day? So that's the things that worry me. So we put those on flash drives and.
Okay. So you have backup drives too. Okay.
Yes. So that can save that so that those, those moments are not completely lost.
Yeah.
I know that.
You mentioned stuff with photos. It's very interesting. Like so many of these photos I either take on my phone or you don't even go back and look at them.
No.
It's like, why we have thousands of photos, all this stuff. It's like, how often do you really go back and look at them,
Right.
But yeah, everybody.
It's just so easy I have 28,000 photos on my phone right now, but a lot of that is client photos. And so it is good sometimes to be able to go back when I have a client and they think, golly, what did this look like? And I show them, it's so fun to see their reaction of like, how was I living that way? So that's fun to see that before and that after, on your phone. So I do.
And it's interesting. It's interesting where so many photos on your phone. I have that too. And then I have the problem sometimes of finding that photo then that I'm looking for. It's like you have it. And then it's funny. We save stuff sometimes and then trying to find it when you need it is a whole nother obstacle.
We'll use it. I use the search bar in my photos. So I search for dog or house or a sofa or something like that, and it pulls up. So
It
I don't
pulls
know
up,
if you ever
okay.
use that, but try that.
I think I tried it one time and it does pull up one thing, but I didn't find exactly what I was looking for. But yeah, it's very interesting that that's a new feature now that is happening. So
Right. Yes.
Definitely. So you were talking earlier about kind of your process. And when you come in, if you're coming in like day one and you're doing a consultation and you're getting ready to start, or for someone basically for someone who would even need to do it on their own potentially, which I know is a lot harder. I'd rather have you, but if someone's coming to do this all by themselves, where do you start as far as organizing? You come in, you said you take the pictures, you kind of game plan in your head of, okay, this needs to go, we need to make it look, more tidy. Well, how do you make it happen in logistics?
So I think if you start early, I think if you are thinking about putting your house on the market, before you put it on the market, I think a lot of things need to happen. I think you need to go and think of yourself as a buyer and put yourself in their shoes. That person who's putting their house on the market is going to go somewhere else. So think of how you would want to walk into that property that you're about to purchase. So if you're starting from the front door, go outside and literally say, what do I see here that I can take care of? And start that. You can break it down into, little chunks, right? So we don't need an elephant, just one bite at a time. So starting just from that front, sweeping the porches, getting rid of the dead plants, taking, the things like that, adding the mulch, that. Then you step inside, because when somebody steps inside, that's where you want them. They're going to look online first at photos. So your photos are very important. And I would say try to get as professionally as you can. If you can't afford a professional photographer, if you're doing this on your own, turn on the lights, look at the pictures. Don't just take a shot and move on. So the pictures are important, but you want them when they walk in that door, that you want them to fall in love with your space. So it's really getting through the stuff, like I said, pre-packing. So you want to make sure that you just go room by room. And maybe that's the thing to do for somebody who's doing this on their own. They just go room by room and say, I'm not going to move. Oftentimes they want to move on to the next room. I'm not going to move on until I complete this room. So I'm going to go through all of the books, or the books that I've read that I want to donate to a school, to a library, something like that. Are there things that I need that are personal items that I need to pack up right away? I'm going to pack those up. Are there pictures on the wall that maybe they're too many pictures? I'm going to take some of those down. Focus on that room, complete that room, and then move on to the next one. It becomes less, crazy in your mind. You just know that you've tackled something, and it starts that snowball effect. I call it my Dave Ramsey, it's like the debt snowball, like where you just start little. And so if you're doing those kind of things, then the job is not so big. So just taking it one thing at a time. And, the garages, I know that that's where everybody wants to put all of their stuff. And I think that that's fine to put your stuff in the garage if you don't have a place or a storage, place for you to do that. But shoving it and throwing it in there is not necessarily the thing to do. I would still have that be a little bit more organized, because they're going to want to know that they can park their cars or put in. A lot of people have, gyms in their garages. They want to know that that's just not the catch-all, but that can also be organized in that space as well. But going space by space, and maybe it's something like you start in a bathroom first or a closet. Start small and just take it one step at a time, but allow yourself, if you know you're going to put your house on the market, I would allow yourself enough time to go through those steps and go through that process so that it's not so overwhelming.
Yeah, that's a really great point, is just break it down. And I feel like if you do start, like you said, with one thing at a time, once that's done, you get that little like celebration moment when it is done. So then you're like, okay, now I feel ready to do the next one. And you get that motivation that keeps you going. Like you said, that snowball. So I think that's a really good idea for someone who, especially if they're doing it on their own and they don't have someone like you with them to kind of push them through it. That is really, that built-in motivation to keep going.
That is a great tip for getting organized. Start small, start one place at a time. But what about some kind of tip for actually, let's say you get something organized. And I know I've had this before. I organize my desk and I'm like, okay, I'm sick of my desk looking like this. And I do it, I organize it. And all of a sudden I start noticing man, things are piling up again. What about like something to actually stay organized? Because then you get back in your old habits again and things pile up. Is there some kind of technique or trick for that?
Well, sometimes it's asking yourself, what is not working? What have I tried to do that is not working, and why is it not working? Is there an emotion behind it? Is there a reason behind it? Is there timing behind it? Is there something like that? So sometimes it's really having to dig a little bit inside of you and saying, if I know that I want to have a space that is organized, and I know that the outcome is what I want, but I keep finding myself in this position, what is the root of that? So sometimes it may be I'm being lazy, or the system doesn't work, or I haven't allowed enough time to do it. And those, once you start kind of asking yourself those questions, then I think you can start. And sometimes it's, that repetition. Like I have a client who shredding, they want to shred things. So they have a pile. So I said, okay, well then start with shredding Sunday. And then mail was piling up. Have a mail Monday. I mean, I know it sounds something that's like such a small or silly thing, but for somebody who's trying to get a routine going, like Taco Tuesday, that kind of stuff. I just kind of played off of that a little bit so that you don't have to worry about that the entire week. You have one day.
That's right.
And I don't have to think about it after I've done it for a week. So it's just planning something. And maybe the system isn't working. Maybe what you thought was going to work. And then it's asking yourself, why is this not working? When we go and organize somebody, we can say, here's, we want to organize it so it's functional for you. This is your space. You live in this space. We want it to be functional for you and work for you. And if it doesn't, then let's tweak that or figure out what is happening and why that's not working. So
yeah, I like that, functional for you. And I think one of my biggest problem, I think hopefully there's probably other people, hopefully not, but I'm sure there is, that busyness, getting too busy. Like you intend to do it and then it's been a long day, you get tired, you put something down on your desk. And you're like, oh, I really want to put this away now, but I'm just so exhausted. I got 10 other things I got to do tonight still. And then all of a sudden the next day happens, you do it again. Now with me, every once in a while you get mad. You're like, okay, I got to take care of this now. But to get in that routine, I think I like what you said, like shredding Sunday or mail Monday. Like if that pile grows up a little bit on Monday, that's when it gets taken care of if I don't get to it before. I like that, to have some kind of systems in place to catch that so it doesn't build up.
Right. And I think you just have to try it, just try it and see what's happening. Or if you're, have a tray and once that tray is full, guess what? That's the day that you have to take care of that tray. So it's containing that, but it's really, and it's going back to why am I not doing this? Okay. And I'm going to worry about like taxes. I hate taxes. So I delay. I ask for the extension. And if the worry that it took me, the worry was way more than the project took. So that's why it's sometimes just tackling it one day a week, and then you don't have to worry about it for a week. We have too many other things that we're thinking about. And when you can just release that, you've handled it, and then you feel good about it because then you come in and your desk is clean and you want to continue that. So
I agree. I like getting things off my mind because then it frees your mind up to think about other things. And I realize it's in your mind, And some people really need somebody there with them to go through it, especially when it's something on a bigger scale, like moving, or if you let something pile up for so long, you need that help.
Yes. And it's just somebody who starts that with you. Maybe it's not something that's forever, but it's it's just for the, just to get me, to motivate, to help me. And, for one of my clients that I work with, monthly, I ask because I'm learning how she works as well and how her mind, so that we can get the systems that are right for her. Because if they're not working for her, then it is not working for anyone, because she's the most important part of that and piece of that. So it is. Sometimes you just need somebody to nudge you a little bit. And we do that in a loving way, but we also are trying, if we know that you've called us and we know that you're wanting some help.
You're listening to part 1 of our interview with Tara Yarbrough, owner of Be Organized in Northwest Arkansas. If you're enjoying this episode, don't forget to subscribe and come back for part 2.
My name is Vin.
And my name is Elle, and we're here to help you sell your house and
save your equity.
You're listening to the Your House, Your Equity podcast, Home Sellers Edition, where we help homeowners like you to sell your house and save your equity. As always, thanks for listening. And if you want more great content like this to help you sell your house quickly and easily, with or without a real estate agent, feel free to subscribe, like, comment, share, and you can also follow us on social media using any of the links in the description. And of course, you can always visit us at yourhouseyourequity.com. Thanks for listening. Your house, your equity, join the movement.